Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug.Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and I'm happy to bring back our friend Marty McLeod. And today we're going to talk about one site that he's been working on for a little while, 100% info content, all outsource, all low competition keywords. And he's done a lot of work on it, but he's still kind of on the front end and just starting to monetize. So we're going to get into all the details and the lessons learned along the way. Marty, how's it going today?
It's great. Appreciate you letting me be here tonight.
And if you haven't caught up with Marty before, there's a few episodes. We've interviewed him a few times, but for the people that haven't checked those out, Marty, what do you do? How did you get into niche sites? What was your job before?
Yeah, so my background, I'm an Auburn grad. I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. So I used to live in close to Atlanta, Georgia. And then I always dreamt of being able to make money online, tried a few things, didn't do so great. I took your course, as a matter of fact, 2017, roughly the middle of 2017. Over 2 years, I built one and then a second website. And then finally, when they were making enough money in 2019, I quit my engineering job. And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, it changed your life, right?
That's right.
Just,
As a matter of
yeah,
fact, honestly, not to
humble
be corny,
brag.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So, and we mentioned, I always try to mention it, like we did meet in person, which is,
Yes, that's
it's
right.
tough. It's tough to do. I think you've met a lot of people now
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you quit your job in 2019. So you met a lot of folks and built some community as you traveled. Do you want to talk about that
Yeah.
just a bit?
Yeah, you bump into people. I haven't run across too many people doing like affiliate or niche site stuff things, but a couple here and there. Some e-commerce guys, a lot of freelancers, a lot of remote workers. But in fact, before I went to Ukraine, I was in Tbilisi, Georgia, my first time in Europe, and I ran across a guy who was in John Dixer's FaxFax forum, and he knows, people like that. They know who you are, Doug, and I run across people. I say, yeah, I took I've been on, here's Doug's info. And they'll say, yeah, I know who that guy is. And I met a lot of people here and there who have heard of you and they know a little bit about niche site stuff. But matter of fact, one of the guys, when we got out of Ukraine, guy messaged me the other day saying, hey, I want to learn more about how you're making money online, how you quit your job. That's really cool. It's so interesting who you meet.
Amazing. And you dropped something there, and I just have to ask about it. So you and I were talking
Yes.
off the record
Yeah,
earlier,
boy.
but you were in Ukraine.
Yes.
Do you want to just tell the brief version, be as dramatic as you would like to be? But
Yeah.
it is absolutely crazy. So I emailed you maybe a month ago,
Yeah, that's right.
and you're like, "Hey, in Ukraine." We're like, "Cool, we'll set something up." And then
Yep.
some time went by, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?" So
Yeah.
you're okay. Where are you at now, and how'd you get there?
Yeah, I'm really grateful to have gotten out. So what happened was rough. So about the time you messaged me, things got pretty bad after that. So within like roughly a week is when Russia started attacking military locations across Ukraine. I was in Kiev, the capital. So so they hit some military installations. So until that point, people outdoors, it was just like normal. It was like everybody outside, the Ukrainian people, was like a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is probably going to blow over. It's probably just President Putin is bluffing and this and that and the other. We're not going to leave." And then within roughly a week to a week and a half, things got really ugly. And that's when Russia started attacking the country. And it was about that a week and a half. I'm trying to remember the dates and stuff, but I remember it was this week where things really started getting heated. The Russians started coming into the city and they hit Kharkiv, and then they were coming towards the capital, and I knew they were going to try to take the capital, and I was still there, and we'd had explosions occasionally, but it got to the point where it was on a Wednesday that I said, "Holy cow! This is getting really bad." I read the news, but it's kind of weird because I would read the news, and the news in the Western country is behind in time because of the time difference, also especially. So when I read news, sometimes it was a little bit behind, so it was kind of hard to keep up. So basically on a Wednesday, I decided, well, this Friday I'm going to get the heck out of here. I made plans to fly to the Philippines because I have a friend here who encouraged me to come. And what happened was the next day, is when I found out, guess what? No airline will go anywhere near the country. They're all canceled all the flights. And then the president declared martial law. So there were no taxis available anywhere. Almost everything was closed except a few little stores here and there. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do? I didn't know what was going to happen. I tried to buy bus tickets because the only options left were a bus or train because I didn't know anybody personally there with a car. So I was kind of screwed. I thought, what am I going to do? And I couldn't buy bus tickets for the Thursday. I kept trying and trying. All the tickets were selling out. They're just gone like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the heck am I going to do? So managed to get tickets. I even bought 2 tickets for that Friday. So I packed up 4:30 in the morning, Friday morning. There are explosions going off outside. There's like 2 giant booms outside, right outside this little area out here. Just bam, just bam. The whole city shakes. And I couldn't go to sleep. So I just got up and I got ready. And at about 10 o'clock, I dragged my bags across. I don't even know how many blocks. Maybe it was a mile or so, or I don't know. I can't even remember, but to a bus area. And my buses never showed up, even though I had to, I tried to be planning ahead and I didn't know what to do. I met 2 foreigners, one of which, by coincidence, he spoke Ukrainian, even though he's from the Netherlands now. And their buses never showed up. So that evening at about 5 o'clock, we managed to get on the bus with a few empty seats and we paid cash to ride the bus to Poland. We got out of there. And shortly after we left, the Russians started striking the city even more. I mean, the whole time we were there, there's sirens going off. There were air attacks. So it took us about 30 hours to get to the border at Poland and get across. And finally we made it to Warsaw. Man, I tell you, man, it was it was so stressful. It was killing me. I didn't know if I was ever going to get out,
That's insane.
Yeah. Because I knew they'd already done, Russia had attacked the banks, cyber attacks about 1.5 weeks before that. And I knew that they were going to hit it some more with the infrastructure. Probably if they were able to capture the city, they were probably going to bomb the railways, streets, buses won't be able to go, probably turn off the electricity, data networks, cell phones, so it just piles on itself, you don't know what to do. It's crazy.
So that was your first trip to Europe. So what'd you think?
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you what, man. I learned some interesting lessons out of that. And of course, again, I'm grateful to be out of there. It's really unfortunate because I feel terrible. I met other Americans there. I knew 2 guys there. And even though some people said they weren't going to leave, eventually a whole bunch of them did because it just got too real. When it gets to a certain point, I think your motivation to survive kicks in and you say, I can't do this.
Yeah. And I've never been in such a situation, nothing even close, but I think when like you and I are from the South of the US, right? It's pretty quiet, right. Pretty chill. Like we maybe were in a town where there was a little civil unrest at one point, but roughly things are very calm. So I wouldn't even know. I would have been gone like very soon. Like anytime there was anything weird, I'm like, you know what? Like I can't even handle it. So I don't know. But anyway, that is an insane story. I'm glad you made it out. Let's talk about this site that you've been working on here. And you sent me a list of things that went well, things that went wrong, but let's start at the very beginning. So this is potentially a little bit different than some of the sites you've worked on, all info, all low competition. What made you move in that direction?
Because, when I started with your course and when I created my 2 main sites, I started with Amazon affiliates. And, it can be very lucrative. I mean, it's, obviously, but the problem, one of the things is there's so much competition. And when I started doing informational content, because I had joined Mediavine, I joined in late 2019, but I didn't really start making a couple $100 with ads until I think the very end of 2020. By that time, I started making close to 1,000, and then by 2021, I was making a lot more, most of my money with ads. And what I saw was that it's going after informational keywords. I personally like it more. Plus, there's just so many topics out there. There's a huge amount of low competition keywords that are informational types. So you don't have to fight as much. I mean, there's always pros and cons, obviously, but you don't have to quite, if you go about it the right way, you know the correct path to take. You can do this without even building backlinks sometimes,
Perfect.
You just need to have the right plan. And I actually enjoy it more, to be honest with you, because I get reader comments, emails, I get comments on my website, emails, blah, 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 and the feedback I get is actually, it's very positive as well,
Awesome. And I think, quick note, in the old course, it was all Amazon affiliate. The new course that I have, as soon as Amazon changed their commission rates in the spring of 2020, I revamped, retooled things. So it's more of it's called multi-profit site. So it's a balanced approach.
Right.
And there are pros and cons for each one. And the course lies right in the middle. So just quick, I'm defensive apparently. So I'm like, I just want to make sure people know is that the same course from like 2016. All right.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Now, you mentioned that you hired your first VA from the Philippines via onlinejobs.ph. So how'd that go? What made you want to hire a VA?
So I should explain to add a little bit of information. So the informational content model with ad revenue, if you go about it with a good plan, it's possible to scale up and make major bucks with that. But obviously, you can't do that as a one-person show. It's not possible. So, I remember I even asked you a long time ago, and you gave me some advice about hiring, content and how you started to really make it, progressing and things like that. And I never forgot that, and I took that to heart. And then I got some advice from a couple other people who are doing this as well. And so I knew what steps I needed to take. So I knew that I could outsource the content creation, like, the articles. I do the content planning myself, and, but I have to outsource a little bit so I could buy the content, but then I still needed help with somebody to create the images. So for now, my budget would allow me just to hire a VA. It's a very nice girl from here in the Philippines, as a matter of fact, a different city, different part of the country. And so I found out about onlinejobs.ph, which is a very, very pretty well-known website, And it turns out the American guy who created the website, he had some really helpful information about hiring, because when I've tried to do this as a beginner in the past, like with Fiverr or Upwork or whatever the case may be, it didn't go too well. So he had a very short course, a video course. There's a couple of different ones, but one was like $49. And while I was in Mexico, I watched it and I took notes. And he explained the things like hiring process, some advice, cultural differences, which actually was really helpful to know. I learned something I never knew before, as well as how to give tests for a potential candidate, So I did that, and I found a girl who was really nice, who did a good job. And so she's creating images to help offload the time and effort it takes to publish the new content on my new project, on new website.
Can you share how much you're paying?
Yeah, so I'm actually gave her a raise, so it just went up to just a little bit over $3 an hour.
Okay, and what was her like set of qualifications? Are these like complex images, or is it pretty straightforward? Do you tell her what to put on there, or does she figure it out on her own?
She had experience also like some other people, but she did a little bit better job with as far as the little screening test that I had in my this process, hiring process. So she basically does like featured image for each post, and then in content, I call them in content images, like like under an H2 subtopic, you might have a little picture. Those right there as well. And I kind of gave the guidelines for what I needed, like what size, the font, put a watermark on there. Here's the general style I'm looking for. Because I learned that it's good to create a document saying, here's some examples, here's what I'm looking for. Some people even create videos. I did that as well. You can do that in Loom, or there's a lot of tools out there you can let you do that. I created some videos as well. And so it's nothing too complicated, but she was comfortable using tools like image editor, so she already kind of knew the basics. So the rest of it's just basically small stuff for her to actually carry it out.
And with onlinejobs.ph, which you're the second one of my friends in the last, let's say, 2 months that hired someone. And I think I may try to hire someone. So what kinds of other jobs is it, like a full, and the price that you mentioned it sounds quite low, but with the
Yeah,
exchange rate, like it's pretty lucrative, or at least a very fair wage for people in the
yeah,
Philippines. So yeah, can you talk about like the range of skills that are on that website?
yeah. I've seen quite a few. Of course, I didn't venture into it too much because I was looking for specific things. So there's everything from accounting to customer support to administrative duties. Could be social media stuff, tasks. All kinds of things like that. Could be writing, writing articles, research. Oh gosh, there's a lot of stuff that goes on here because I'm actually in a building where there's a couple companies here that actually have customers
Yeah,
representatives here. Yeah, they're
gotcha.
literally upstairs. A lot of stuff like that. So think of whatever the things are where, um, whatever it is that's probably like what kind of clerical or might there. Some of it was even web development. I remember that a little bit of that too. So it's pretty fair amount of pretty broad number of categories. Yeah.
Okay. I think I may take a look over there. I've been dragging my feet, but I'm at a spot where I'm like, maybe I should take a pause. And it always takes a little bit
Yeah.
longer when you hire someone to train them. You have to have some feedback and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Definitely. For sure.
you slow down before you speed up, really. So,
Yes.
all
Yeah.
right.
This was a learning process for me too. This is my first time really actually getting legitimately getting it working.
Yeah. And I realized I jumped right in and talked about a VA, but
Okay.
we really didn't talk
Yeah.
too much about sort of the content planning. And it sounds like this could be
Yeah.
one of those niches where there's kind of unlimited informational keywords where you're like never
Yeah.
going to run out. Is that true?
Yeah. I would say that's a pretty fair statement. Yeah.
How many like keywords did you find initially before you got started?
Holy cow. Well, I mean, I could only go so far. I did know a little bit about niche already, but I always try to do my homework. Just to say thousands and thousands and thousands.
Okay.
I have to stop at a certain point.
Yep.
You know?
And it sounds crazy, but that is the value of the informational content
Yeah,
and keywords. And
totally.
I have now identified a couple of those niches, and they happen to be stuff that I was already doing anyway. I just never looked at it at the info side. So like, I feel like if you can marry the
Right.
two together, you can have, even if it's just 5% or 5% affiliate content, and then everything else is informational content, you can set up,
Yeah.
content clusters, and you could really have a lot of topical relevancy, and then just have all this, huge amount of content. You're
Yep.
never going to run out. So you found thousands.
Yep.
And currently, how much content's on the site?
So I have 261 posts at this moment. I just ordered another 40, and I think I'm 3 away from getting ready to order another 20 on top of that. So 261. So I'm going to be at the 300 like within a couple of weeks.
Where are you getting the content from?
Actually, I've tried so many different things. I ended up for now selling on using word agents.
Okay.
Because overall, I ended up getting what I felt like was pretty good stuff. I mean, nothing's perfect, but overall, it's worked out pretty well. Yeah, and the customer support has been pretty good. I got really they're all American writers, by the way. I need to make that very clear. I've also used word agents. Sorry, not word agents, but what was it? Writer. Where's my mind tonight? Sorry, I apologize. It's so late.
That's all right.
Uh,
Is it the, well, it doesn't matter. Some
yeah, it doesn't
company
matter
that you're
about
about to shit on, right?
yeah. Well, or I should say, there's another one that I've used in the past with All American Writers that did really well. But this one, yeah, I can bulk upload. So the pro to that is the con is I don't have my little special favorites group. The pro is I bulk load up everything in whichever writer they sign it to. it's already on its way. So
Perfect.
it's turned out pretty well so far. Yeah.
And roughly how much do you pay like per word or per article or however you?
Yeah. So I'm paying about the same as I've paid in the past for a few other. I'm paying. It depends on how the bulk quantities I get. So it comes up to around 5.5 to 6 cents per word right now, which is not the cheapest, but you have to weigh that against what you're getting and how you feel about the value.
Okay.
So, but I've been pretty content with it.
And the value, I mention it all the time. The value with the agencies is you don't have to do the project management. You just give them the topic or the keyword,
Yeah,
and then it comes out on the other side, right?
yeah,
So that's a huge value, huge amount of time that you're saving. Otherwise, you'd be working with probably, whatever, 5, 6 writers or something like that,
yeah,
and a lot of communication that could fall through the cracks or just be a little stressful.
yeah. Uh, the other agency, sorry, I had forgotten. It's Writer Access, but that's a little. It works differently. That was
Got
the
it.
other one I was trying to think of. Sorry about that.
Okay, writer access. Good to
Yeah,
know. And I know you've had several sites, successful sites in the
yeah,
past. And when you hire a company, sometimes they have an idea about how they want to format the content or organize it.
yeah.
How much input do you give them? Did you have a specific template where you're like, I want it to be like
Yes.
this? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, in the beginning, long ago when I was just an absolute beginner, I did not. But now I've refined it a fair amount. So that is actually very important because I wouldn't get the results I am without a good article outline. So even on my shortest articles, I use at least 4 H2s. I always have X number of subtopics H2s and H3s where it makes sense. So I have a pretty structured format. I'm currently using a Microsoft Word outline, and I have my things spelled out very clearly: H2, H3, H4. Everything is very clear. So when I give it to them, they all they really have to do is create the fill in content in each section. Uh, and I actually, in the past, when I was using Writer Access, and I did this as well, just wasn't as fine tuned at the time. The writers had actually said, this is actually helpful. I'm glad you had this outline. It makes it easier for us because I think a lot of times that they end up trying to fill that space, and it doesn't always turn out too well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you create a little outline. It sounds like it's
Yep.
pretty tight formula, at least 4H2 tags, sometimes more. And you have
Yep.
261 posts currently. So
Right.
you personally, did you write an outline for every single one of them?
Yes.
For the people out there that are thinking, man, that sounds like a lot of work. What do you, how would you respond?
I will say yes, but if you think of it in terms of part of the process, I'm not going to do this forever. The goal is for me to get it pays off. It's going to pay off if you put in the effort. If you not only will get a return on your effort within the content in terms of the keywords you rank for and therefore traffic. Once it starts making money, though, it's especially going to be beneficial because now that you know how to handle this, how to plan this out, then once you're making money, you can go to the next step, which is hiring someone else, and you can show them how to do it. And when you're making more money, you can put that money back into the site and then keep growing your team. So if you have the correct approach from the beginning, because you did it yourself, just like when I wrote content myself, I understood what I needed to do, and I was also able to improve it. So I build on itself, and it helps me to get from point A to point B, then point C, and so forth. Keep going to the next milestone, basically.
Nice answer. So the other part, and I have to ask because people love these AI writers. So you created the outline, which I mean, we've already
Yes.
identified that sounds like far too much work for many, many people. And I say that with a smirk on my face for people that are
Okay.
just listening.
That's right.
So it's far too much work, right? And we're lazy people out there, especially me. So why not
Yeah.
use an AI writer? So you wrote the outline. Why don't you just use an AI
Yes.
writer and then skip all this wasted time again with a smirk on my
Yeah.
face? Why don't you just get an AI writer instead of hiring real writers?
So when at the time that I experimented doing this, I did not find it to be getting the results that I had hoped for. Um, there are some things I'm going to try to do to improve the efficiency that'll be coming up. I'm going to test some tools and compare it to how I'm doing it semi-manually right now. But long story short, it was a struggle to get anything useful out of it, even though I was using for example, I tried the RTYR writer. I've tried another tool. I forget the names of some of them. There's a bunch of them out there now. But I even got the Jarvis Boss Mode plan, which is like $109 per month, which is one that's very hyped up. And he got a few articles, but in outlines. But when it got to a certain point, I was just wasting so much time on it, and it just really wasn't satisfactory. So I realized pretty quickly that this is not going to be optimal because I have enough experience now to say the what it's giving me, the on page value, the on page factors are not going to be very good. I'm probably not going to drive the traffic I would like with this. And the amount of time I spent on it just trying to get something good out of it, I could have just done it myself and been done with it and go into the next thing, move on down the line.
Yeah.
So my personal opinion is that a lot of that stuff is overhyped and isn't quite ready for prime time, as we say. Don't get me wrong; some of it's useful for some stuff, and like I said, I'm going to experiment with just helping to supplement me creating an outline, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, it is definitely not an end-all answer at all. So far, right now, doing it the old-fashioned way is still the best way, I think.
All right, cool. And I love making fun of the people that hype it up so much, and I call those people affiliates. They're just affiliates for the tools.
That's right.
So, yeah, and I'm not an affiliate currently, but whenever I jump on the bandwagon and I hype it up, everyone can call me out and just keep playing back all the times I made fun of the tools. But at some point, they'll be better than the article spinners of your.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on. Content wise, any other, big ideas about the formatting? I know, images can be important, sometimes diagrams, and we talked recently about calculators and stuff. Are you going that in depth for some of these other richer pieces of content?
I'm still going for example, when I first started, I used to do these very long, high workout articles, and I've reduced that down. So I'm trying to focus more on getting out more posts of a reasonable length. And I still do, in my particular case, one of my niches, diagrams are very important because it's technical info I want to explain well. So I still do my diagrams, but I don't quite go as far in terms of word count per post that I used to. I want to aim for going after more topics and getting more posts out, as well as potentially try new stuff as well, like the calculator stuff that I've done recently.
Cool. How short of content have you been? Like, what's the lower limit?
That's actually an interesting topic. So, and this is strictly with my new site, which is, the one that's purely informational that we're talking about. So I got really curious because I've seen these massive websites. I don't know how to describe them, but I think a good name might be like an aggregate answer website, where it's almost as if they scrape questions and some text and put it in and create a post with it. Some of those were super short, but long story short, for some search queries, Google will rank stuff as low as, say, 400, 500 words. So I thought I've always done at least 1,000, and people tend to say, well, you should do at least this long. I thought, well, you know what? This site is not really like some authoritative site, and they're ranking in the top 3, top 5. Why don't I give this a shot and see what happens? So I did that, and guess what happened? A bunch of mine are ranking in top 3 positions, just as low as 500 words. I do it based on what's ranking, and you have to use use your best judgment. But it just proves that it's possible. I do make an effort to. Like I said, I always use at least a minimum of 4 H2s to break it into sections, especially if you're going to be running ads. You want to have enough display depth for ads, display ads. So I don't make some tiny clump of text, but it goes to show you that there's not a magic formula for X number of words. So you look at what Google's treating what it's ranking, and use that as a kind of a rule of thumb, and then go from there.
Perfect. And I think I'm glad we're shifting. Sometimes you can answer a question and help a visitor out without going into,
Yeah.
1,500 words for a very short
Yeah.
one sentence answer. So it's great to see that. All right. When did you start this site? And tell me if you had any indexing issues, because I know that's a common
Oh my
theme
gosh.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started it. I created the site in, I believe it was the end of 2019. So let's just say it was like somewhere around Christmas 2019 where it was officially up and going. So coming into 2020, everything was cool, and I had a bunch of post indexing, and everything seemed to be pretty good. And that was about the time that, at the time, I used to have that all-in-one SEO plugin, and they got bought out, and they changed the company, whoever bought it. They were screwing around with it, and they had a bunch of updates, which they forcing auto updates, which you're not supposed to do. And I don't know what happened. I still can't say exactly, but it's almost like my post got de-indexed. So it took me 3-4 months before they got back appearing in Google search results again, and not even all of them. It was so frustrating, but I've been very consistent about adding roughly 20 posts per month. I said, okay, this sucks, the indexing problem, and I've tried everything, and so far I haven't found a good solution for it. But I'll just keep moving forward and keep putting more content out there. And it seems to be an issue that a lot of people are reported having, where either new URLs don't get indexed very easily at all. It just can take forever. And I've noticed also that even if they get indexed, sometimes they don't appear in search results for that search term, because I'm tracking my keywords in 2 different tools, and it helps paint a big picture about what's going on. So most of them are at this point, but it seems to be like taking a very long time. It's like just a few per day, and then it'll fluctuate a little bit, and then eventually it kind of slightly improves. But I started off with like 100 of them not even appearing in search results at all. It's really stressful,
And it sounds like the site's about 2 years old. Is that right?
I guess that's I guess it's something like that.
Okay, a little over 2
Yeah.
years old. And
Yeah.
at this point, are things indexed because of the history and the traffic that you're getting on the site?
Yeah, it is getting better. So it finally, just a couple, was it like 3 or 4 months ago, I hit 10,000 sessions per month. Finally stuff started indexing, and I even use an indexing tool, but Google just still, whatever's going on with the Google algorithm still wasn't being nice. So eventually it started gradually growing traffic. So I'm just going to keep growing it. I'm just going to keep focusing on what is working, and just keep going. But it seems to be that if you just keep going, if it keeps getting bigger and doing the right things, it sooner or later is going to get there. I unfortunately haven't found a solid explanation for what's going on.
Yeah, no one knows. Everyone
Yeah,
has these
exactly.
theories, and they're like, do the instant index this or that. But
Yeah, all the usual advice doesn't seem to always work at all. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. I've tried most of that stuff already. Yeah.
So you mentioned that number one, you've been working on it for a little over 2
Yeah.
years or so, and you're just starting to potentially monetize, and it
Right.
hasn't even earned anything yet, right?
Yep. That's part of. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you got it. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, this is part of the struggle, right? Like you
Yeah.
had some false starts, and you're putting money and time
Yep.
into it, a lot of time,
Yeah.
and you're scaling up, right? I mean, you published quite a lot of
Yes.
content. So
Right.
can you talk about budgeting your time and money as you're scaling up on a new project where you're like, I don't know if it's going to work?
Yes. And I will say that taking the advice from people like yourself and others who are already proven to be successful helps you have a frame of reference and know what you're getting into, and not give up, get discouraged. So I knew that this is just going to take time. So I budgeted for how many articles can I afford to have created by a content agency every month. And let's just say it's roughly $1,200 US per month for roughly 20 articles, give or take. And a little bit of money for I have a VA to do the images for each post. She uploads those once I've uploaded the content once I get it, and I edit it a little bit. So it takes me about 2 days to do my content planning before I place an order. So let's just say that's like 20 hours editing. Let's just say that's about another 8. So that's every month that's somewhere around 30 until I can hire someone to offload the work that I'm doing. So it's been consistently doing that month after month. But I've just been approved for ads with Mediavine for that site, so I'm really looking forward to taking that money and putting it back in and just growing it, scaling it more.
Along the way, was it hard to keep putting money into it, especially with various issues? Did you ever question yourself and think, hey, it's time to bail out?
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I should also add that I really could have sat down and budgeted better when I first started, because part of the stress was not even the money itself. It was that itself has been a thing that you have to deal with, saying, man, there's always that little voice in the back of your head. Gosh, is this going to work? I spending this over $1,000 every month on this, and I can't go do something fancy because I'm spending part of my earnings just investing in this website in the hopes that it's going to pay off one day. But what was interesting was, one of the things I've heard about was when I hired my VA, and she does the images, like I mentioned. I have to. She's a very nice person, and she's part-time right now. But I started feeling this new responsibility to give her work as well, because I made an agreement with her about having work for her, so that I take it seriously. So it's like a new thing, a new experience. And part of the stress was, when I started, I think I didn't really sit down and do the numbers enough, and I thought I could get out more content per month than I could, and that didn't work out. And that was like a big thing. That's like cold water in the face right there. I was like, oh, I'm biting off more than I can chew. I need to slow down a little bit and do what I can within my means right now. Just be consistent every month. But to answer your question more specifically, yes, you just have to have faith, and you need to pattern your plan and your consistent action every month after what has been proven to work. And as long as you have a good baseline and you know what is the potential, the possible payoff, as long as you're doing your best effort to do your homework and go about this the right way, you just have to trust in the process and just keep going, and don't doubt yourself too much. It's not easy sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
It's tough. There's a famous book by Seth Godin called The Dip. Have you read that one?
No.
Seth, his books are pretty short. They're like 100 pages or so, and they read very quickly, short sentences, short chapters, everything like that. But yeah, you don't know when you're in a dip. And I mean, you were starting from scratch, so you were in the first dip there. But like, sometimes when you grow and then you go back down, you don't know if you're in a dip where you need to bail, or if you're in a dip where you just need to keep pushing through, and you're almost at the tipping point where you're about to start earning money. Maybe you're getting out of the sandbox. And a lot of people, they just quit too soon. And the amount of time that you put into the site, and the number of months, and like we said, sort of the false starts and hiccups along the way, it would have been really easy to bail. But there's a good chance in like another year, the traffic's going to explode and it's going to be earning. And we won't hold you to it, but do you have any prediction, maybe the first couple months here, once it starts monetization?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping I get like $500 per month. And then, because if I could just do that the first few months, because it's going to take a while for it to ramp up, obviously, but because I expect to be, what's this month? This is March, I guess. So by the time August or September roll around, I expect to be making about 1,000 over 12, let's say $1,200, $1,500, and it's just going to compound on itself, because I'm just going to take the money and put it back in there and grow a team, and just do the same over and over and over. So ideally, I would feel happy if I'm like at $500 within once ads start running within about a month and a half, 2 months. I think that's very easily doable. Yeah.
And one thing I like is you're obviously thinking about this on a much longer time scale than a lot of people are like 6 to 12 months. I want to be earning X amount. And you're looking, I assume, at 4 to 5 years based on some of the things you said. So like, have you always had a long-term vision like that when you're working on these things, or has that shaped over time?
I think I had somewhat before, but it was never quite at the scale it was before. So I'm fortunate enough to have looked at examples of other people who were kind of in a similar place with me a couple of years ago. And they just kept doing the same stuff, and they just kept doing more of it. Like, they got this one site making a lot of money, and then they created another site, and then eventually they had a portfolio, and several of them are at six figures a month, which is mind blowing. So now the scope of what I know is I didn't know that it wasn't within my realm of possibilities in the past, but now I know it is possible. It's not bullcrap. It's possible. These are just average people. So now my scope is what's possible is what I'm aiming for. Whereas before it was just, I want to make a few $1,000s a month. That's great. Now it's like, I want to get to 5, and then eventually 6 figures a month like these people. So my scope is expanded a lot,
Very cool.
pretty much. Yeah.
So I think we covered a lot here. And if people have questions, please ask them in the comments over at YouTube, or you can shoot me an email, feedback@Doug.Show if you're on the podcast side. And Marty, do you have any other, final thoughts or anything like that? I know I love catching people in the middle of what they're working on before we have concrete results, because that's where like 99% of the people are. They're in the middle of it. And it's crazy. And I want to get more people on that are, starting on a project like this, Marty. But a lot of people think, hey, I don't want to be on your show unless I'm making $4,000 a month or $10K a month. So it's awesome to hear someone in the trenches doing stuff. You have been successful. You quit your job. You started another site, and you're right at ground, at the beginning again. You're starting at zero again. So anyway, do you have any, inspirational thoughts? Anything else? Any tips for beginners?
Yeah, more and more. This one, I think the single biggest piece of advice I can give to a beginner is, don't listen to the noise. Learn from the people who have proven they are actually making it work. There's so much bad advice out there, even these days. It's not as bad maybe as it used to be, but there's so much noise, like in Facebook groups, people who aren't even making money. If you follow their advice, you're going to cost yourself a lot of time and wasted effort. So listen to people like Doug, and some other, there's a lot of great resources out there, and it's just amazing what you can learn for free. These people have proven they know what they're doing because they're making the money. Learn from those people. Don't listen to every Joe, Dick, Joe, Tom, and Harry out there. Secondly is do your homework. Spend the time to find a good niche, and do your best effort to plan your content, an outline for each article to get the most out of the money that you're spending for your content. That's really helped me a lot as well. Definitely.
That's awesome, Marty. And we have so many other topics that we can get into, but we've run out of time for today. It must be like 5 a.m. there. You've been up all night, and I appreciate you staying
I've been up all night.
So good grief.
That's right.
Next time I'll wake up early and we'll be good here. So anyway, if people have questions or anything, be sure to let us know. We'll have Marty on again soon. And thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Appreciate it.